Wales Juris Doctor and International Law Program presentation. We're lucky enough today to have Associate Dean International Colin Picker from the University of New South Wales and also Ashley Wagner from the University of New South Wales to present on the university and their law programs. And they're really going to highlight that JD program for us today. But before we get started, I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of information about Global Links Learning Abroad and who we are, so that you know that we are here to help you through this process. So thank you again for attending, and let's get started. So kind of a little bit about who we are. Global Links Learning Abroad, we've been around for about 25 years, and we have been sending students all over the world for this amount of time. We have been appointed by top-ranked universities like the University of New South Wales to assist students with their study abroad and earning their degrees abroad. So we have the opportunity to offer degree programs all over Australia, New Zealand, and the UK to 25 different partners. The nice thing for you as the student is we provide services like this, webinars, information sessions, the opportunity for you to connect with faculty and department chairs from the universities. We also provide you free support. We'll assist you with the enrollment process, which sometimes isn't too bad, but it starts to get a little more difficult as you start getting offers, working your way through accepting those offers, and ultimately traveling to your new university for your new program. So that's kind of a little bit about who we are. Kind of what we do. We advise students. We're here to help you. We are third-party program provider, and we provide you the opportunity to study abroad. So my team, it consists of 5 different staff. We advise students applying for full degree programs at our partner institutions like the University of New South Wales. We're here in the U.S. and in Canada, so we're going to be in your time zone. We are able to chat with you over the phone. If you're close to one of our offices, we'd love to meet with you. We're able to answer your questions and also connect you with very specific resources. We'll go through the process once you've accepted an offer on applying for your visa, utilizing your financial aid. All of those questions that you kind of think about as you get ready for a degree, we're here to help you with. But the first step is to apply, and so that's why we provide opportunities like this, so you know, so you can make sure that you're applying for the best program for you. We do certify academic transcripts. We are able to obtain application fee waivers for students applying to many of our partner institutions, and then we do provide an in-country orientation. And this in-country orientation is typically 4 to 6 days, and it's called our Bridging Cultures Orientation Program. So this is something that's very unique to Global Links Learning Abroad in that we provide you, the student, the opportunity to meet other students that could be studying at your university as well, or at least studying in the area. So for example, in Australia, we'll send you up to the Great Barrier Reef. You'll get to meet other students, do some very exciting excursions and activities. We have orientation sessions that will kind of help you adapt to your new country, and then also adapt you and help you adapt to the new system of university system. So this is an $800 value that's provided to you, just as long as you apply through Global Links. So from there, I'm going to hand this over to our guests, Ashley and Colin, so that they can kind of go through the JD Law program and introduce you to the University of New South Wales. So Colin and Ashley, over to you.
Hi everyone. As Kim said, my name is Ashley, and like Global Links, I'm based here in the United States. So my role is to help U.S. and Canadian students that are interested in studying in Australia by explaining the programs and helping you understand what your life as a student will be at UNSW. So I'm going to give you a general overview of UNSW and what we're known for as a university and some of the things that we're proud of and that make us stand out from some of the other universities. And then I'll turn it over to Colin to talk specifically about our law programs. If you can go to the first slide, Kim. So first and most important probably to know is our location. We are in beautiful Sydney, Australia, a city of about 5 million people in a country of 25 million overall. Sydney is Australia's financial capital. It's a very global and multicultural city. About 1 in 2 families have parents born overseas in Sydney. So it's a very diverse culture, and you can see that in the food, the festivals, the general day-to-day lifestyles throughout the city. Go ahead, Kim. So to see where we are located in Sydney, the main campus for UNSW is Kensington, kind of that bottom right black arrow. We're about 5 minutes by bus to Coogee Beach, about 20 minutes by bus over to the beautiful famous Bondi Beach, which you've probably seen in magazines and on TV. Very nice location to the city. It's only about 12 minutes by bus into the Central Business District, which will then lead you into Sydney Harbor and the famous Opera House, and only about 15-20 minutes to the Sydney International Airport, where you can jump out and explore the rest of Australia while you're there. Go ahead, Kim. So these are just a few views. That's our Coogee Beach, and the next slide will be the Opera House, which I said was 20 minutes away, and beautiful Bondi Beach, which has lots of TV shows and celebrity sightings that you might be familiar with. Go ahead. So a little bit about the university. We were started in 1949, originally as Mechanical Institute, though, going back as early as 1843. Overall, we have about 55,000 students, and about a quarter of those students are international. So we have students coming from 120 different countries. Alumni spanning the world, 275,000, so that means our networks are very wide, and many of our students then move on to live in other countries and continue their international experience. And in our short, we like to say our short life, we're still proud that we become one of the most prestigious universities, not only in Australia, but also in the world, as I'll go into in the next slides. So there's any number of rating systems that you can see, and I'll talk about a few of them, but one of the ones that we're really proud of is the Hobson's Good Universities Guide. UNSW achieved the most amount of 5-star results of any Australian university, and we have some of our fellow Group of 8 universities there for you to get an idea, but we're quite proud that in these very important day-to-day areas that will affect your life on campus, our satisfaction level is, as you can see, all 5s and 4s for 2014's ratings. And on the next one, these are some of our other rankings. The QS University rankings, UNSW is the 52nd university in the world. We were the first university in the world to be awarded the 5-star plus rating for excellence from QS, and those have actually some of the similar rankings to those Hobsons. Those are on a wide variety of things. If you want to learn more, you can visit their website and see what they're rating those. One that we're quite proud of this year, we're #1 in Australia for producing millionaires, so a good place to go if you're looking to make a lot of money. We're 32nd in the world for employer reputation, and I've already mentioned the Good Universities Guide. So those are just a touch of some of our rankings and standings in the world to give you an idea. Next. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Colin, and then I'll be available at the end if you have any questions.
Hello, I'm Colin Picker. Maybe as you can tell, I'm actually an American who lives in Australia. So I'm one of these people that came across and fell in love with the place, the university in Sydney in Australia, and decided to stay here. So I can very much be someone I think that can tell you from an American perspective how it is. I also studied law in the United States, and I taught law in the United States. So I'd say that I can give you a comparative perspective as well, direct comparison with the U.S. Law schools and even with the Canadian ones, which I'm very familiar with as well. Next slide, please. Well, what is the JD? As North Americans, you'll be familiar with this. It's the Juris Doctor. It has become, I would say, the standard prestigious law degree in the world. We're starting to see them show up in different places. It started in the United States back in the 1960s, where previously it was just an undergraduate law degree, the LLB. And then over time, it's changed into this postgraduate professional degree, which really puts you in good position for the practice of law or going into business or politics or policy and so on. The training you get in the JD at UNSW and at some other places is really will be at a very high level. It's more than just a law degree that should be like an undergraduate degree, but that you do afterwards. It's set at a much higher level. And indeed, as the slide notes, typically around the world, law firms are looking for people with postgraduate law degrees. The undergraduate law degree or simply an undergraduate degree is clearly insufficient, not only in the United States, which has been the case for a long time, but also around the world now. Next slide, please. As Ashley pointed out with the rankings earlier, UNSW does well, and in fact at the law school we do particularly well. There's only one ranking, global ranking of law schools in the world. Of course, in the United States you've got the U.S. News and World Report, but that's only U.S. law schools. The QS rankings, on the other hand, and you can go online and learn about them, they review law schools around the world, and we have placed in the top 20 for the last few years, most recently ranking 14th. So this is quite clearly a very prestigious institution. I like to compare us with the Ivy Leagues in the United States, which I have some experience with as well. But we also score very, very highly in these other rankings, and we have the highest rating in teaching satisfaction, starting salary. Our students are very happy. They're very happy while they're here. I mean, of course, leaving aside the occasional exam that stands in the way, but they're very happy, and they're happy when they get out, and we have very strong alumni relations at this point. Next slide, please. Australia, as you'll know by now, in the Southern Hemisphere operates a slightly different academic year. Typically, the year starts with what's called Semester 1, that starts in late February or early March, with Semester 2 being after a short winter break starting in late July. But the UNSW JD, the law school's JD program, is a truly international degree program. So you can actually start commensurate with the Northern Hemisphere academic years as well. So we have a Semester 2 start, which is the July entrance, where you can start in March. Like the United States and other JDs around the world, this is a 3-year degree. We give advanced standing for students with another law degree. That's because we recognize that many of our international students may have studied undergraduate law, and while that's not the case in the United States, it is in many parts of the world, and we can give advanced standing for that. And we then set up the JD in order to accommodate part-time students, students who have other jobs, international students that have needs back home, in order to provide great flexibility. So we typically offer our courses multiple times throughout the year, sometimes in our summer session as well. These are the core courses. And we also try to offer some of our courses down in the Central Business District for any students that happen to be employed down there. So it's a very flexible degree, but if you do it full-time and you've not had law before, it's going to be a 3-year degree. Next slide, please. As an international law degree, and by that I meant that you do study the subject international law, but this is really a global law degree. Our graduates end up all over the world. So not only do they come from everywhere, they don't just stay here. They're staying here, as from my own personal experience, is also fantastic. They go around the world. We have JD and LLB law graduates working in every continent on the world, well, perhaps not Antarctica. And in particular, the United States. We have graduates of our law programs that are members of bars, New York and California, and so on. And so it transitions very well into a career back home. Though, of course, in order to really understand what your opportunities are following having the JD degree, you have to check with your local rules or consult with us, and we can try and give you advice on that, because some jurisdictions do have unusual rules. Though for the United States, as I say, we've had quite a few graduates that have managed to become members of the bar of New York and California and a few other bars as well. So that seems to be less of a barrier. Next slide, please. And just accentuating this, if you look at this slide, you'll see some of the very best law firms of the world. These are international law firms. These are firms that have offices in London and New York and in Beijing and Hong Kong, Sydney, Brussels, Paris, and so on. And we have graduates from our law programs in all of these places. In fact, some of our graduates have risen to the very top of these law firms, serving as managing partners, firms that will be thousands of lawyers strong. So UNSW has a particularly strong presence in the elite firms of the world, and in particular, a very, very strong presence around the Pacific Rim. So that's both on the west and east side of the Pacific Ocean. Next slide, please. Well, what's the degree like? It's quite similar to an American law degree. We have compulsory courses, core courses as we call them, and then you have electives where you can choose them. The core courses tend to be similar to the ones that you would study in North America. This is a common law degree, an Anglo-American common law degree. It includes constitutional law and contracts and torts, all of the usual things that you would expect from a law degree in a common law country such as in North America. And indeed, many of the cases and materials that are used are common across all of these legal systems. Furthermore, many of our instructors are members of the Bar of New York or Canadian bars, or in England, there's solicitors that are accepted there, Hong Kong, and so on. So it's a truly global teaching staff, the academics that are here, and the courses reflect that, which is why this degree is so powerful when you go around the world, because it's accepted as being the standard degree to get into international and transnational work, or indeed into domestic work in common law countries. Next slide, please. The course starts with our foundational ones, which include the typical private law, which is torts and contracts, and then public law, which is constitutional law, and the usual criminal law, and then introduction to the legal system and introducing law and justice. We then have these middle stage compulsory courses, and I want to focus just on one of these at the moment, which is Law in the Global Context course. This is a new core course, which is part of their new curriculum, which was just launched last year. This new curriculum was based on best practices and the latest developments all around the world, but with particular focus on what's been coming out of North America and the United Kingdom. We've actually put into practice everything that everyone is saying there should be in a law degree. And that's including internationalizing the law degree through such things as this new required course, which is Law in the Global Context. It basically is a tour through transnational and international through the use of case studies. So for example, in this last semester, we studied the Australia versus Japan whaling case, which took place at the International Court of Justice, in order to understand international law in the context of the harvesting of whales in the South Pacific Ocean. And students really enjoyed it, in particular because the International Court of Justice handed down their decision during the time that we were studying this. So it was pretty exciting. The electives that you can choose towards the end of your degree, you're able to choose those not only from the usual law electives, but also from our vast array of postgraduate offerings. This is something that the undergraduate law students aren't able to do. And so you're able to take highly specialized courses that are taught by experts that have flown in from all around the world. And that's one of the excellent benefits of the JD program. Next slide, please. The style of teaching that we use is, I would say, at the highest levels, the ones that reflect the most recent understandings of pedagogy. Though people that are familiar with how law is taught in some of the better institutions, law schools in the United States, would probably recognize very quickly our style. Indeed, the Socratic method that's typically practiced in the United States was brought to Australia by UNSW in the 1970s. Similarly, clinical legal education and internships that were pioneered in some of the law schools in the U.S. and now, because of budgetary constraints, are under stress there, are front and center in our education. And so we don't have large lectures. We only have the smaller seminar-style classes. We don't have tutorials. We have all of our classes interactive. And so our classes are sort of seminar/tutorial in style. We have the same expectations that you would imagine at a U.S. law school. Students come prepared, they take part, and they're assessed in a very similar manner to what you would find in the United States. So unlike law schools in the continent or in Asia, North American students would feel immediately at home and fit in very well. Indeed, in my JD classes that I teach, there's always 1 or 2 Canadian students and a few American students as well. And really, their interaction and their participation and their success is a bit as good as one would hope, and equal at least to the local students. Next slide, please. One of the things that makes UNSW Law School different from other law schools in Australia is, as I noted before, our emphasis on teaching and being innovative. We were the school that brought in these innovative teaching methods. Our curriculum is the most up-to-date. I would argue it's the most up-to-date in the world at this point, having reflected all these recent advances and understandings of law school teaching. But in addition, UNSW Law is also deeply committed to social justice and rule of law. Of course, that doesn't mean that we don't teach commercial courses and economic courses. Indeed, I'm one of the teachers that teaches international economic law. But we have some great depth in the area of social justice and rule of law. Rule of law overseas, we have projects, for example, at the moment in Myanmar to help the transition there. And social justice both locally in some of the areas of Australia that need assistance, from indigenous communities to areas where there's some poverty and helping there. So it's a law school that still focuses on some of these traditional notions of serving the community and serving the greater good, and it really runs throughout the whole law school. Next slide, please. We very much believe that law is taught both in the classroom and outside the classroom. We offer both internships and clinics. We have a significant number of each of those, and we encourage our students to do those. Now, those internships can be local or they can be international. In fact, I supervised a student that was on an internship in Taiwan last year, and that's not at all unusual for our students to do that. In the clinics, the students have the opportunity to actually work with real clients, to learn client skills, client interview skills, litigation preparation, litigation negotiation, and so on. And many of our students take advantage of this. We even have offered, as is noted on this slide, a human rights clinic in South Africa. That was a tremendous experience for the students that flew over with one of our instructors during our summer. Next slide, please. UNSW International is heavily involved around the world. We have deep relationships with law schools in Asia, Europe, and North America. We're developing those in Latin America and Africa. Our students have the opportunity to go on exchange to law schools all around the world to study law in English in those law schools, or if our students have language skills, to take the law courses in the local language. We also offer short overseas courses, in America called summer courses, but given the northern and southern hemisphere confusion, I like to call them July and February courses. Our summer, your winter, our summer. And we offer 2 in July. One is in Shanghai at Shanghai Jiao Tong University, which is a close partner of the university and of the law school. And we offer another 2-week program in New York City, studying human rights at Columbia University. We're about to launch a program in February at Berkeley that will be looking at American law. It will be an introduction to the American legal system. And we also offer a course on environmental justice and environmental law and development law in Vanuatu in the Pacific Islands. That will be offered this coming February. So students have an opportunity for short-term overseas or for longer 1-semester or 1-year exchanges. We also take part in international knitting competitions, and indeed UNSW has done particularly well in the JETSUP International Knit Court competition getting through to the international round a very large number of times and making it all the way into the finals a significant number of times. And as I already mentioned before, we now offer this law in the global context, which internationalizes the curriculum and prepares our students for the future where lawyers have to deal with transnational, foreign, and international matters, even if they're in a solo practice in a small town in the middle of their country. Those things are still impacting them, and we try to prepare them for that. Next slide, please. In addition to overseas exchanges, we also offer relationships with other law schools. For example, we have one with Oxford where you can spend almost your whole time at UNSW and then go to Oxford assuming that you performed well enough because it's based on certain entrance criteria, where you can then continue to finish your JD degree, get the UNSW JD degree, and then continue on into the Bachelor of Civil Law or the Master's of Law, Finance Law. We have a similar agreement that we just finalized with the Hebrew University where you would go in your final semester on exchange, take only master's courses there. After one semester you would have the JD complete, and then you would stay on for one semester as part of their program and then be awarded their master's, which is in human rights or international business. And we're negotiating other such pathway agreements with Hong Kong and other elite and prestigious university law schools around the world. Next slide, please. We provide a great deal of support for our international students. As the Associate Dean International, when I started, this was a particular focus of mine, ensuring that our international students were both successful and happy. And we've achieved this, I believe we've achieved this through numerous things. One is a series of events that permit the international students to become enculturated and socialized into the law school and into university, into Sydney. We've also offered very specific courses aimed at international student experience and the things that they may need that that are particular challenges to them. And this includes a special legal writing and context elective for international students, as well as workshops that we run on such things as class participation, assessments, class preparation, and so on. So typically, students from North America come in and perform at such a high level that most of these things, while a nice thing that's available to them, isn't typically needed. Though, of course, they're very welcome to take part and to take as much as they can from these events. Next slide, please. The continuing with that, as you can see, I'll just focus actually on the picture. There's a picture of our lunch down under. Oh, if you go back one slide, please. The slide there is our lunch down under, where we brought in some Australian animals and offered Australian food for our international students. Always a great hit, particularly the giant lizards that the students get a chance to pet and to play with. When I say play, I don't really mean, I mean just petting, because they tend to have large teeth. But that's an example of one of the things that the North American students actually really would be able to participate in and enjoy to the full, despite already performing at a very high level. So it's a social event that's catered for them. Next slide, please. I'd like to end on a picture of Sydney. I mean, there you have the Opera House and Bondi Beach and the harbor and the central business district downtown, as it were. And I'll end there, and I'm happy to take any questions that there may be. Thank you. I forgot we had another slide on masters. Okay. Well, I'll take questions on the JD afterwards, but let me just turn for students that may be interested in master's programs. We have master's programs that are for people that have a law degree and master's programs for people that don't have a law degree. We also offer an SJD, which is a professional doctorate, so this one-year coursework, and a PhD, which requires that you have some prior master's research degree or proof of research, and it's only research. There's no coursework that's associated with that. Is there another slide? I hate to...
Sorry, there are. These are the ones that you sent over.
Okay. All right. The Master's of Law is 8 courses over 2 semesters. It's a very traditional Master's of Law degree. I'd say the difference between Masters of Law at UNSW and Masters of Law in the United States at the law schools is that all of our Masters of Law courses are only designed for Masters of Law. You don't go into a JD or LLB class and that's your Masters of Law course. These are postgraduate law courses that we may invite JD students into and occasional undergraduate law students, but they are designed for our master's students, and they will be 90 to 95% composed of master's students. So these are students from around the world or local students who are already in practice or who are interested in learning something about the law because they work in a field where that may be relevant, but they're not actually lawyers. So that's really the difference between our master's program and the ones you would find, I would say, at almost every law school in the United States and in most of the ones in Canada as well. Next slide, please. These, the Masters of International Law and International Relations and the Masters of Dispute Resolution are specialized postgraduate law degrees, and they can be taken by people who also who do not have a law degree but believe that they're in some sort of field where dispute resolution and an understanding of the latest developments and approaches would be helpful. Similarly, Masters of International Law and International Relations for people that are hoping to work in the field of international, not necessarily as a lawyer, though both of these programs are also taken by people with law degrees who wish to bolster their credentials in order to either to operate at a higher level of dispute resolution or at a higher level of international law and international relations. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, the SJD and PhD are research degrees. This is an opportunity for in-depth, original research, typically leading to publication. That's up to the student. If you do it full-time and you do it in the usual period, it's 3 years, though typically 4 years. At the end, of course, you get the PhD and you can call yourself doctor. We require that every candidate has 2 supervisors in order to ensure that they get all the supervision that they need. We also require that they take 1 course on research methodology because this is a very serious research degree. And typically the end result of the PhD is a thesis of about 100,000 words. And the SJD is a thesis less than that. I think it's about 70,000, but I may not remember exactly on that. Next slide, please. The LLM students are a little different often than our JD students. They're here for just 1 year, as opposed to the JD who are here for 2 to 3 years, typically 3 years if they don't have a law degree. And they're coming in just to add to their credentials. For example, coming in from Europe in order to rise higher in a law firm or in their business, or to get some specialization. When they come in, they've got these 8 courses that they take, and they typically, some of those courses can be taken in condensed form. So they'll be taught over 4 days, or 2 days of a weekend, and then 2 days of another weekend, or maybe 8 3-hour days. So they're condensed form with the assessment typically being a research paper. So it's a true postgraduate degree in the sense that there's a research component that's present in a significant number of these courses. It's also highly flexible to permit the students the opportunity to really reach a higher level in each of those classes and to dive in at great depth in a concentrated form. Next slide, please.
That's actually the end.
That's it. All right.
That's it.
Okay.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Colin. We'll go to your pretty picture. Thank you so much. That was wonderful and very informative. So we do have students sending through some questions, and so we will go ahead and read those aloud. So definitely keep sending your questions through. So the first question is, do you accept U.S. financial aid?
Yeah, we do. Though Ashley actually is probably much more on top of this than I am. Ashley?
Yes, we do accept U.S. financial aid, and you would just apply for FAFSA the same way with us that you would for a U.S. institution.
Perfect. Another student has asked, will I be allowed to work in Australia? And I think, Colin, you kind of mentioned this, that students, it's kind of sometimes a flexible degree where students can work.
Actually, Ashley, do you know the visa rule on this one?
I do. So with your student visa, you will be able to work 40 hours in a 2-week period anytime that classes are in session. So any way you want to split that time over a 2-week period. And when classes are not in session, you have unlimited work rights as a student on your visa.
Great.
Furthermore, if you, under current rules, and of course rules can always change, so you have to check these things. If your degree is 2 years or more, you have the ability to work for a period afterwards in the field that you are. Ashley, you know about this?
It should be 2 years extension, and then so that 2-year extension will allow you time to apply for permanent residency if you wish to stay longer. That doesn't guarantee you will be able to obtain permanent residency, but it gives you the time to stay around and apply for that permanent residency and then stay in Australia potentially.
Do you see a lot of the JD students working part-time, Colin?
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's basically 3 types of JD student. We have a JD student that has almost a full-time job, I would say, and they're doing the JD for their future, so they'll spend 4 or 5 years doing it very slowly, part-time. They'll often take the courses downtown. They tend to be Australian students. Then we have the international students who come and they they go through this quickly. They do it in 2 years if they have a previous law degree, or the 3 years. And they're focused on that. They typically don't work too much.
Okay.
And then you have, particularly under the international visa, there's restrictions on how many courses you must take. So you can't actually drop down to part-time very easily as an international student. So there is some restrictions on just the time that they have to work. I have to say my own recommendation is always to focus on the degree unless the other job is one that's related to the career that you're wanting to pursue, in which case it's going to help you. That's what I would generally suggest.
Okay, great. So the next question is, and I think you may have touched on this, but what are the average class sizes?
The class sizes range from about 28 to occasionally there'll be a large one of about 70 to 90, but that's pretty rare. Our average class size is probably about 38 to 44, I would say, but when you get into the electives, they can be very small. They can be down to 10 students or 12 students, sometimes larger. I mean, I just taught a course, Introduction to the American Legal System, that was so popular. Unfortunately, it had 55 students, which was, in my view, too large, and I'll be restricting that in future years to make sure it's a small class. But I just taught the Law in the Global Context core course this last semester, and I had 36 students in the class.
Wow, that's impressive. Another student has asked if they have to take the LSAT.
No, they do not. Not at the moment under current rules. Though they can take the LSAT, and they can submit that. Though, Ashley, you'll know more about this than me.
Yep, you're right on. You can, if you did exceptionally well and would like to include those scores, you can. But since we do not require it, whether you've taken it or not, you do not have to include your LSAT results.
Okay, great. So another student has asked, what are the benefits of finishing the JD at Oxford or the other institutions you have agreements with?
Well, when you finish the degree, but then you get an extra degree on top, and you end up, there's an overlap there. So you get the extra degree in less time than you would otherwise if you went and just did it separately. Law is a pretty competitive field, and the more you have, the more likely you're going to get what you want out of it, whatever that job may be. And so if you have the JD and then you have an additional master's from one of the elite other institutions of the world, that's just going to work out very well. That's a very good thing. Of course, you don't need it. Most people just have the JD, and they do very, very well. But you have the opportunity to to add to it. Plus also you get the opportunity to learn something new in a different environment, which always makes the end result much better.
Great. And another student has asked, if I do not have a JD or an undergraduate law degree, what master's programs can I do?
If you don't have an undergraduate degree?
Law degree. So they have an undergraduate degree, but they just didn't specialize in law.
It's the Masters of Business Law, the Masters in Dispute Resolutions, the Masters in International, and I forget the exact, what was that one called?
Master of Law and International Relations.
Yeah. And Ashley, do you know off the top of your head any of the other ones that you don't need? Criminology, I think, is
right.
But on our website, it's very easy to see the different master's programs that we have and which ones require a law degree or not. So without question, the LLM is a master's degree that requires a prior law degree, but we offer many others. And sometimes you're in the same classes with those LLM students, so you get the opportunity to be working in law at the same sophisticated level, but as adopted for people that don't have a prior law degree, so that you're not prejudiced by that.
Great. And I think the final question that we have is, and you kind of touched on this a bit, especially with the photos, what do you kind of feel like the campus life is like at UNSW?
Well, I think we have the best campus in Australia now.
That's great.
Let me explain why I say that. I don't think it was always like that. And if you visited UNSW 10 years ago, you might not have felt that. Since then, we've had a significant amount of construction that's gone on, and we have incredible new buildings and facilities. Our campus is quite condensed, so you don't have massive walks that you have to do between one side of it and the other. I think the most that you'll ever have to walk is about 15 minutes at the very most to get from one side to the other. The people in charge of the university have taken very seriously the needs of the students and staff in all the different ways that affect our life on campus, including every year asking us about the food and retail facilities in a survey, and then using those to bring onto campus what we want. So I mean, the food on campus is amazing. Similarly, the retail things that you can do. Plus the location. We're near the beaches. We're near interesting areas. We're close enough to downtown that we can get in there with no effort whatsoever. So it's a perfect location. The weather is incredible here. The campus is beautiful. It's as modern as you can be, and we have great food.
And to add that, with all those international students that I mentioned, that there's a wide range of clubs and activities that students can get involved with, sports or interests. Otherwise, I think it's upwards of 300 clubs and opportunities at this point. We also have 5,000 beds on campus, so a lot of students are now living on campus, so there are a lot of restaurants and bars and places to interact with students without having to leave campus if you choose to live on campus, and we do have a lot of that housing open to international, or all of that housing open to international students. So it is becoming more of a buzzing campus during the day and during the night when school's in session.
Yeah, and a lot of that accommodation is very new, constructed within the last 2-3 years. So it's really fantastic facilities.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. Yeah. Cool. So so thank you both so much for joining us this afternoon and presenting on the JD and a few of your other law programs. Just as a reminder, we'll go ahead and send you an email with all of the application details. The next intake for the UNSW JD program will be February 2015. So applications are now open, and we're already starting to see some students get some acceptances in. So it's really exciting. It's a good time to start applying to law school. So please just contact us with any questions, and we'll send you a follow-up email. So thank you again, Ashley and Colin. This was wonderful.
Thank
you.
Bye.